Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to be really excited about something. An evening with Jamie Glazov in Los Angeles, California on June 18th, 2024 at the Lux Hotel, 11461 Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's a Freedom Center event. Mark it on your calendar. I'm going to be discussing my new book, Obama's True Legacy. Register at frontpagemag.com. You're going to see the announcement on the left-hand sidebar. Or just email Michael Finch at michael@horowitzfreedomcenter.org. It's going to be the event of a lifetime. It's going to be big. Hope to see you then. God bless.
This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jrnyquist.blog. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, back by popular demand, and what an honor and privilege to have with us Jeff Nyquist, an expert in geopolitics and the history of communism. He is author of many books, including his latest, The Fool and His Enemy. Jeff, once again, an honor to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Jeff, brilliant recent article by you at jrnyquist.blog, which everybody should be visiting. Very, very disturbing, fascinating, always stuff that you're investigating. Galitzin's correct predictions. And why don't I just hand it over to you?
Yeah, the thing that really it's got me to go over all that again was that I had found that in the Bill Clinton library, there's the transcripts that were declassified just 6 years ago of Bill Clinton's telephone conversations and face-to-face meetings with Boris Yeltsin. And his last face-to-face meeting with Boris Yeltsin was on November 19th in Ankara, Turkey in 1999. And it was an extraordinary meeting because Boris Yeltsin asked Bill Clinton to give Europe to Russia. And, it's like, well, people might say that Yeltsin was just a drunk, but no, Yeltsin's very sober. And Clinton is very reluctant to hand over Europe. But it's as if it's part of a longer conversation that we haven't heard the whole thing. And there's implications in there, like when Yeltsin says, Russia is half European and half Asian. And so Clinton, smart aleck that he was, said, so you want Asia too? And Yeltsin answers, sure, Bill, eventually we'll have to agree on all of this. It's like, and of course the thing is who are we? Who are you giving to Russia? I mean, there's an implication of a longer conversation that we don't have privy to the context, right? But if we think that Vladimir Putin is demanding Ukraine, demanding the Baltic states, demanding the old borders of the Soviet Union, if we go back, Boris Yeltsin's demanding more, only he's asking nicely, right? Putin is coming with not so nice, because the nice drunken clown Boris didn't get it. He didn't get Europe. And we had before that, we had Gorbachev talking about the one common European home. And you go, the one common European home? You mean the one with Moscow as the capital of all the Europeans? The one from Vladivostok to Brest, or as Dmitry Medvedev, the Putin stooge, likes to say, from Lisbon, Portugal to Vladivostok.
But Jeff, even the assumptions here, the premises, the implications, it means that, oh, well, here, you can have this over here. No, okay, I'll take this over here. They must have that much power to simply give countries to one another, if not continents.
Well, the Russians seem to think so. And of course, if you look at how communists and Russian leaders view Western capitalism, they think that, there's this America's this big imperialist power that gets to decide for other countries, but they don't realize it doesn't really work that way. We give people all this money and then they kick us around. It's they sneer at us. And Clinton's comment to Yeltsin was, I don't think the Europeans would like that very much. It's
Mhm.
like Clinton doesn't, as American president, doesn't have the power to give away Europe, right? He's got the
Yeah.
Senate, he's got the national security establishment, he's got NATO, he's got all the NATO countries, even in 1999, and you got Poland screaming to get into NATO. They got admitted. I think the formal admission process stretched through the later 1990s. Czechia, Hungary, and of course after Clinton left, the Baltic states went in. So you have all these
Mhm.
former Warsaw Pact countries joining. Why are they joining? Because
Mhm.
they don't want to be under the thumb of Moscow,
Yeah.
and so Clinton realizes he can't he can't deliver on a what is he going to do? He's going to get a spatula. He's going to sort of pry loose Europe from the map. He's going to put it on a plate, maybe put some pepper and salt and ketchup on it, and he's going to give it to Boris Yeltsin. It's not going to happen. But the
Yeah.
Russians are asking for something from the beginning of this whole process that started in 1991 of the unraveling of the Soviet Union. It was like, here's the Russian thinking. Oh, the reason they won't let us have Europe is they think we're bad, we're communists, we're going to take them over. So they're stopping us in Europe. Well, if we make nice and they see that we're going to be a democratic capitalist country, the Americans will leave Europe and then we'll get it all.
So Jeff, let me jump in right there because okay, so there's a part of me that's a little bit skeptical of some of these things, like that decades ago this plan is made, that we're going to pretend that we fall and crumble and then we're not friends with the Chinese, but really it's a trick and we're going to, so I'm a little bit skeptical because there's so much of free will and the human dynamic and so many things can happen. But then at the same time, what do I know? Because there are the powers that be, and they're very shrewd and they have a lot of power. And then things kind of do turn out a certain way. So Golitsyn, this defector in the early 60s, he said that the Sino-Soviet split, it's window dressing, it's a trick, but that later they'll unify. And then that the Soviet collapse, he warned some of this, but then we know in the future that many argue that the Soviet collapse was not really a collapse, it was to trick the West. But now there's some evidence that you point out in your article that even the KGB and the Soviets, they actually fueled and promoted the revolutions in Eastern Europe in 1989. I mean, this is just mind-boggling stuff. But the bottom line is that a lot of the same people are still in power in Russia. I mean, it's the KGB just with a different mask. And now what Golitsyn was saying is actually coming true, that Russia and China are stronger united than ever. Let me give it to you. What do you make of all of this?
Well, the thing is, just because somebody has a plan doesn't mean they're going to follow it or follow it exactly. And just because somebody has a plan doesn't mean it'll
Mm.
work out. And I
Uh-huh.
quote Helmut von Moltke saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy, basically. That's where that comes from. But I think we have enough testimony. I mean, what got me interested in the plan before it was carried out, because I got interested in this in 87, was the fact that, I read Golitsyn when the book came out in 84, and I said, oh, there's a lot of interesting strategic ideas, but nobody can carry out a plan like that. I just didn't believe it until I read two other defectors, Adislav Bittman and Jan Shana. And Shana hated Golitsyn. He was a defector that thought that James Angleton, who loved Golitsyn, had tried to get him thrown back, to the east, who believed he was a false defector. And of course, Angleton's living in this wilderness of this paranoid wilderness of mirrors, and you can't help thinking everybody's, a false defector. Angleton made a lot of mistakes in that regard, but so you have this very complicated story, and I think though that when you look at the Golitsyn's information about this plan, Shana says there's a secret plan. In his 1982 book, We Will Bury, you can find it. It's in the chapter starting on page 100 on the long range strategy. He says they have a strategy to fake the collapse of the Warsaw Pact of the communist bloc, right there in black and white, 2 years before Golitsyn's book comes out. And then Zaslav Bittman, who has hinted at it in some of his writings, but I know I had a mutual contact with him, and he said that he knew from working for he was a Czech intelligence officer who worked with the KGB on disinformation. He said, yeah, the plan is to have a fake collapse. Robert Buchar, who worked in the office of the Czech president, said there was a plan for a fake collapse. He said everybody in the top echelon knew about it. That's why Bukhar made his movie, wrote his book "And Reality Be Damned," and did his movie on the collapse of communism in Czechoslovakia, where he interviewed former STB officers about how the orders came down from Moscow. And of course, you've got Andrei Codrescu's The Hole in the Flag, where Codrescu's a Romanian defector who comes back when Ceausescu's killed, and he finds out that it was a coup basically organized by Moscow against Ceausescu, and the generals that had overthrown Ceausescu were known to be agents of Moscow. And this is in his book, The Hole in the Flag. And he learns it up late one night drinking with a Russian journalist who tells him he finds out that these Russian journalists came into the country before there was a revolution. Well, how come Moscow knew to send all these Russian journalists ahead of time? And the guy
And
winked
then
at him,
something,
right?
you're right. Absolutely, Jeff. Well, I mean, not even that you're right or wrong. These are just facts. And thank you. Yeah, these are just facts. I didn't mean it in that way. What I meant was,
But what it means is, see, I know what you meant.
but just a sec, let me throw something in there but then things get carried away because you can have this plan and then all of a sudden you lose the republics.
Right.
And then Putin wants to rebuild. So not everything goes their way, but the plan was there.
Oh, absolutely. See, it's just like, you have a famous battle and you get your Custer, right? You're going out for the Indians, and what happens? The Indians get you. So what happened, and I had a very angry KGB officer, a former KGB officer, told me I finally got somebody who would tell me from the inside what happened, how it went down. And he admitted that there was this plan, and the reunification of Germany was supposed to produce a Germany that would drop out of NATO, make a separate deal with Russia. It would be under control of their agents. It didn't work out. And he explained why, all the details. And he said basically it blew up in their faces. Germany didn't come under their control the way they thought it would. They lost control of the Soviet army. A lot of people started to defect out of the Soviet armies, and now NATO, East Germany is now part of a NATO country, and people are stepping off the bases and defecting who have technical skills. And this story goes on, and he said the Ukrainians were the Achilles heel because the Ukrainians started organizing for their independence. And they had to break up the Soviet Union. They had to try to pacify Ukraine by giving it independence and trying to control it through other means. So and he thought at the time that this whole Ukraine thing would go. He predicted it. It was amazing. This guy was bright. A lot of the people there, the smarter KGB and GRU people, are really astonishing individuals. And so I wondered how did this plan really work out? I knew they tried to carry it out. I knew that we'd believed it, but he had a conversation, this guy, with Shabarshin, the head of the KGB, the head of the first chief director, and he said, "We've lost, haven't we? It's all gone wrong." And Shabarshin said, "Well, we've suffered some damage, but we can recover from this, and it's still all good." And then he just asked him about all the banks in Austria the Russians controlled and moving KGB and party money out through those banks.
And Jeff, so some things work out, some things don't, but as you show, there's definitely these plans of deceit. There's long-term plans. And why it's so relevant, not that history itself is just not important, period, whether it's relevant or not. But what's extremely relevant right now is that what Golitsyn predicted and a lot of these deceitful plans is that right now China and Russia, Xi and Putin, are forming into a very strong alliance. It is a communist alliance overall, and it's a major threat to freedom in America.
Yes, it is a major threat. And the thing is that just because they fell off a horse that they were riding or their plan fell through, it doesn't mean they don't regroup and continue and say, well, look, they're fooled. They think we're going to become a democracy. And the other part of my essay is, and we could talk about this on another show, is about how they penetrated our system and how the collapse of the Soviet Union caused our counterintelligence to look away, caused our security to become more lax, where we would allow people to enter the government and enter the White House who wouldn't have been allowed if there had been a Cold War still going on.
Jeff, this is connected. You write about it. That long list of people who died around the Clintons, all these people committing suicide, all these accidents, this helicopter crash where Ron Brown died, and then you bring up the evidence has surfaced that there was a 45 caliber bullet hole discovered in his head. Has that been confirmed? What I would like to...
The woman I met the petty officer, Janoski, that found it. I met her at a television station in Washington. I was doing a show and she was doing one. She had gone public with it. And I met her. And not only was she a Democrat who'd voted for Clinton, she didn't have any axe to grind. She had found this 45 caliber hole in Ron Brown's head and she wasn't going to shut up about it.
But tell us why you brought all that up in the article.
Because Bill Clinton is having this conversation with Yeltsin, and we don't know what the context is, where Yeltsin has the nerve to say, I ask you one thing, just give Europe to Russia. You know, he starts out, Bill Clinton's being very defensive in this meeting, and he's saying, look, I'm not undermining the ABM treaty. I am, there's all these crazy Republicans in Congress and they don't want the ABM treaty. I don't want to, and Yeltsin acknowledges during the conversation, oh yeah, I'm glad you're not making nuclear weapons. You're destroying your fissile material. Oh, that's just perfect. And so Yeltsin says, Bill, I got your note. I went into all these things in incredible detail. I read it and was satisfied. I've not yet ceased to believe in you. These are the exact words. I'm reading it off the transcript. I ask you one thing, just give Europe to Russia. Can you believe this conversation? I believe in you, right?
It's so haunting and surreal. And Jeff, you've documented the Tom Fife story many years ago, this strange woman in Moscow saying that they're training and grooming this black man from Hawaii named Barack that will one day be president and he's a communist. So we can roll our eyes and we can say, oh, come on. But then we see what Obama did to America. And then speaking about a conversation, we've got the Yeltsin-Clinton conversation, but then we've got the hot mic with Obama telling, Obama's stooge there, we just need more time. We just need more. Yeah. After the election, I'll have more flexibility.
Yep.
What was that all about?
Yeah, see, and the way they were touching, if you look at the camera footage of Obama, their hands were intertwined as he's talking to him. And it's very, very intimate, very odd.
Jeff, so what, just, 2 minutes left. I'm sorry. We need to have you on for 5 hours. There's all these predictions in the past about Soviet deceit. They're pretending they're arguing with China, split with China, pretending they're going to fall apart. A lot of this happens. They can't control everything. But why is it more relevant than ever today?
Because this war has started in Europe and China is threatening. Now you see that China is massing its fleet. This is in the news, and the China media is saying that Taiwan might be invaded in June next month. We're almost at the end of May. And Russia and China, Putin just did another visit to Beijing. They are close and they are mobilizing their forces. And we see it in Iran. I mean, you maybe, if you heard Rabban Hassan Yosef's speech at the UN, where he said, he at one point in the speech, he talks about Iran's role behind Hamas, and he says, Russia is orchestrating through Iran a global conflict. Russia's orchestrating a global conflict. That's an extraordinary statement. And this is the son of a Hamas leader saying this. So it's a worldwide plan involving terrorism and war.
And it might not be a coincidence that the Democrats have had are having these show trials, that Trump is found guilty in this ridiculous trial. I don't think this is all a coincidence, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, that Trump is prosecuted on a misdemeanor, supposed falsifying of business records that's trumped up into a felony because he supposedly did this to mask a crime, to conceal a crime, but nobody's proved that other crime they're alleging. How can this be? This is just a kangaroo court. This is outrageous.
Yeah, I felt like crying, to be honest. Maybe I even did a little bit with the verdict of Trump. But Jeff, we have to remember it was a devastating, sad day at the foot of the cross at Calvary. But 3 days later, just one of the most glorious discoveries that humans found out of what Jesus was about. So it could be a dark time at the moment, but perhaps the light is around the corner.
Well, that's the thing, is all these convoluted evil schemes, they usually don't come to what the people planning them want. You know, we don't know. There's just so much we don't know, and it's so complicated. But it's something's going on here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Jeff, thank you for always being a voice of wisdom and for standing for all the good and right things. And you're going to hopefully be back on the Glazov Gang very soon, which is up to you because I'll be inviting you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody check out Jeff Nyquist's work. Very brilliant stuff. And make sure to watch the Glazov Gang and subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channel. We'll see you soon. Good night.